Welcome everyone to our industry show. Actually, this is our fifth industry show, and we want to thank again our audience and everyone for sharing this video. And we want to thank again Tommy and the Miami Community Newspaper for supporting our show. And today is a very special day for me because today we have a very special person in the house at the Miami Community Newspaper. Her name is Shirley Solis. Welcome, Shirley. Welcome to the Miami Community Newspaper, and great having you in our show.
Thank you so much, Ernie. I'm super happy to be here. Very excited to be in the Community Newspaper headquarters in this beautiful studio and being able to share with this wonderful audience.
Yes, and a special thanks to Michael Miller and the Miller brothers for supporting the industry show. And again, behind the scenes, thank you guys for being here and supporting us.
Absolutely.
So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you and your bio, and then you're going to talk about what you do and what you've been doing and where we're going with all your shows and your presentations and your training and everything you want to do for everyone that's available for you to train.
Okay.
So basically, Shirley is a visionary with a focus on social entrepreneurship, a published author, speaker, marketing, and international business expert, certified as a classic code NLP trainer and new code NLP practitioner, by the co-creator of NLP, John Grinder, correct?
Grinder. Yes.
Grinder, okay. A pioneer in the world of parenting and homeschooling. Shirley's speaking, training, and coaching career was born when she created Powerful Parenting Academy from the experiences she acquired raising her 6 children and homeschooling for 22 years.
Yes.
A powerful and innovative leader to women as well. Shirley created Live Life the Experience, a 3-day event to empower women to reach their highest potential. Shirley leads New Code Experience. This is her new business in the area of leadership, marketing and social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and partner relations. She invests countless hours to the expansion of innovative and congruent leadership on the planet. Her passion is to unlock your human potential that we all have.
Absolutely.
Shirley, thank you for participating in this show. And I want to hear a little bit about your story and basically how you got started in this business. And tell me about your family values and how you were able to manage homeschooling 6 kids working from home.
Got it.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, I do have to start by first saying that a lot of times we have those fancy bios, but that I'm really just an average person like you and anyone that's watching. I'm the daughter of an immigrant woman who is an extremely powerful mom. Coming up with Mother's Day, it's reminded of all of the wonderful mothers that are out there who have made incredible sacrifices to be able to raise their children, to come to a different country and work 2-3 jobs at times so that we can have a better life. Basically, I came from Ecuador. I was born in Ecuador, came to the U.S. And here, I think this beautiful country has given me the opportunity to learn a different culture, to be able to integrate into this culture, to be able to get the American way in a way where, I understand this high performance mentality. I understand what it takes to succeed. I understand what it takes to be able to create that dream and actually live it out and make it happen and make it, come true.
Right, because everybody wants to live the American dream. And we're, people from other countries, which we want, to be part of, the United States. But yes, if you come from another country, that somehow in other countries, the hours last forever. Haven't you seen that the
in
time
Spain,
never
yeah.
ends? And that's because they're more laid back.
Right.
And like what you're saying, here in the U.S., it's go, go, go.
In the U.S., there's go, go, go. But I will say that,
Yes.
we can create our own life.
Correct.
Whatever life we want. And I think the American dream is defined by the fact that anyone can create their dream however they want to live it.
Correct.
And, that goes to the family values that you addressed.
Correct.
The family values for me, particularly what's important around raising my 6 children is making sure that I'm present for them and that I help them live out their dream, right? They each have a different passion. They have very different personalities. Homeschooling did a lot of that, making sure that they grew up to be leaders. But fostering that individuality within each one of them, and understanding that even as individuals, we live an interdependent life, and where they're depending on other people and other people are depending on them, but they still get to be themselves. Part of my job and my personal value and family is being able to instill in them what their dreams are, encouraging them in any way that I can so that they can be who they can be.
Right. Meanwhile, you're maintaining a family. You're trying to succeed as an entrepreneur in life, and have 6 kids of all ages. Can you tell us the ages of your kids?
Yeah. So my oldest is about to be 26.
26
Yeah.
years old. Wow.
And then I have a 23-year-old.
Wow.
I have a 21-year-old. I have a 17-year-old, a 13-year-old, and an 11-year-old. I have 4 boys and 2 girls.
The whole spectrum.
I have the whole spectrum.
Love it. And they're still being homeschooled, or
no? I mean, well, the 2 youngest ones are. Yeah, the 2 little ones. The in my way of thinking, I think we're always homeschooling. Once you understand what homeschooling really is, the concept of home education. Correct. Home education is like we delegate that function to someone else, but nonetheless, it is our responsibility what kind of education our children receive. Correct. Because we're the ones that ultimately get to choose what school they go to and whether they're learning, and we are actively engaged in their life.
Right. And because of this pandemic, we
are homeschooling.
We are homeschooling because Zoom took us there, and we had to homeschool our kids. So whether we liked it or not, everyone ended up homeschooling their kids.
All over the world.
All over the world.
Like suddenly it became the new norm. The new norm. That's
Correct.
right.
So sometimes we always have that factor, right?
Yeah.
That, hey, what about plan? Well, that's why I always say have plan A, B, C, and D.
Always.
Because you never know what's going to happen. So you have your kids in school, and all of a sudden pandemic comes around and you have to do homeschool.
Yeah.
And you had an advantage to that because you were already homeschooling your kids.
I was already homeschooling the children.
Right. So were you able to train and help people in this?
I actually was. I was doing a lot of workshops to different companies. Right. I was definitely training people on what they could do to be able to manage their home, because one of the things that people don't realize is like we know how to manage ourselves. When you've gotten to a point that you can manage yourself, that's great. But managing an entire family and managing the time schedules and the continuation of what that engages with work and with meals and with keeping the house clean, etc. Yeah, it was very complex. And so one of the main things I did was explain the difference between having a routine and having a schedule. A schedule was more fixed in time, and a routine was more like, well, this is what would happen that needs to happen throughout the day, but it's not fixed with a specific time. Right. So yeah, I did a lot of training around that, and I saved a lot of people's from stressing and like really
because you had this experience already. And again, you can contact Shirley, and if you also help out parents, correct, with the kids.
Yeah, well, that's how I started. I started off in parenting coaching and supporting parents around like how they could have structure in their families and how they could really create a strong family culture.
Right. Hey, you can only speak to her. She has 6 kids. If we're talking about parenting and coaching, she's the one. 6. So
yeah,
nothing else to question there.
I for a long time I struggled with the fact that I didn't work in corporate America, but when I look at all of my different friends who have my girlfriends who actually did work in traditional companies and so forth, while I was homeschooling and pardon me, but like wiping boogers at home and teaching them and homeschooling. I realized like the way that you run a family is the way you run a company.
That's right.
If you can run a family, which all your triggers you'll get triggered with everything in the family, right? Because at work, you can always fake it. You can always keep it together. But at home, you're yourself. At home, you're going to yell because you think nobody's watching. You think things are going to fall apart.
And this is where your coaching comes in.
That's where,
not the screaming, not the yelling. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And put things in order, in perspective.
And I'm very proactive. Like I'm not very reactive in my methods of coaching. I'm more like, well, what are we going to do and how are we going to create the same basis that we would provide for a company? We're going to do in a family. So we create a mission statement. We create a vision for the family. We have weekly family meetings, and then we start raising the children up in character, creating an environment of growth, and then ultimately providing the emotional intelligence that's going to allow that family to be very happy, very supported, no matter what happens, because family isn't going to be perfect, but ultimately we have certain foundations it's going to make it stronger. And this is how I started in coaching. I did that focused for 6 years only, and then obviously the need for other areas expanded because people would ask me like, hey, can you coach me for business? Can you coach my marriage? Can you coach me and as a woman with
and for this,
issues.
you have these degrees where you studied for many years, the
Yeah.
NLP. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, they're actually certifications. So my
Certifications,
degree is around marketing and international business. But, you know,
Right.
in this whole concept that like today, I find that many people, we don't necessarily have to go through a very long process of education to really understand how the human brain works, how humans are operating today.
Mhm.
And this is not to take away anything from those that have gone through the studies, because that takes an incredible amount of time and dedication as well.
Correct.
I just knew that with the experience I had, there was a shorter path for accomplishing what my clients needed, and that was coaching certifications. Particularly, there's a modality known as neurolinguistic programming that was created in the late 70s. And for many of you that are in the personal development environment, you might have heard of Tony Robbins.
Yes.
Well, Tony Robbins was trained by John Grinder in the early
Right.
80s, and John Grinder was the same person that trained me for 5 weeks in Portugal so that I could certify coaches. And this modality basically teaches us how the brain works and how we can change the subjective experience that we're living. You know, it sounds kind of fancy, but if you think about it, every person has an experience. Like your experience is different than my experience, even though we're having the same interaction here. But what really ends up happening is I'm provided with these tools where I can have leverage points to change your interaction, your perception of this current experience by moving these leverage points around. And so whenever a person comes to me and they say, I have this challenge, or I have this thing I can't overcome, or I want to get to this goal, or I want this to happen, then all I have to do is move those leverage points around from your brain to tweak it up so that I can support you in getting
Right. And
to
this
what
is
you
part
want.
of your training, the NLP training that you went through.
This is part of the NLP training that I went through, and it's part of the continuing evolution that I developed after that, right? Because we put in our own personality and we put in our own experience. And so with all of that, I created my own processes for interventions, for executive coaching, where I've created different angles for how I work with different people based on what they need and the goals that they want to accomplish. And then I got to the point where I wanted to teach other people. It wasn't that I wanted to, it was more like the hero's journey. I was ready, and people started asking.
Your life, you did something that you thought perhaps it was impossible.
It was,
and you got out of that comfort zone that we speak about, and you broke those barriers, and this is the woman you are
This
today.
is so good. I'm going to tell you why this is so good, because you just said something that I thought it was impossible.
Yes.
So guys, if you picture this, I was a homeschool mom, okay? I was wearing like dresses most of the time, never even wore any makeup. Like I was homeschooling. I was wiping butts and boogers the whole day, right? And so one day suddenly I realized that I wanted to teach other people what I had learned, some experiences around emotional intelligence. And so when I did that, I'd gone through some really difficult things at the time, some emotional things that affected us financially in the family, etc. And I started off this concept, like this whole business idea of me learning with negative $2,000 in my bank account. Not like 100 negative, like when you bounce one check. No, I don't know how many checks I must have bounced or how the bank even gave me that much credit to bounce, but negative $2,000 in my bank account.
Sure.
And I will say this out loud. Thanks to Mom and Pop Grant from Miami-Dade County, thanks to all the local supports, branches, thanks to assets, thanks to United Way, like all of these organizations locally began to fund me, began to provide like little things here and there.
Because minority women, you get supported, you get, right. These are
every person, right? Like, I mean, really in the United States and in particular Dade County, we have wonderful organizations and wonderful programs to support as a business. And this was back in like 2012.
And this is, they support minorities, correct? In this case, it's
they'll support small business. There's a lot of support around small business, some that are specifically around minorities, some specifically for women, but really it's, there's a lot of small business
support. But women do have an advantage to get loans because they're minority. Yes,
are they really?
Yes.
So, I didn't know that.
Sure. So that's why we're also pushing for women to join our industry.
Okay.
Our HVAC industry, our plumbing industry, and electrical industry. And hey,
women need to be everywhere.
They need to be. If you could be a mom and manage 6 kids and run a business, I think you guys
we can do anything. Absolutely.
You just have to get out of that comfort zone.
It's about finding, and I have a wonderful coach friend of mine who has a program that's called Deserve Level. And what he taught me is you get in life not what you deserve, but what you think you deserve. So I up-leveled what I deserve. And I went from initially charging $25 an hour, negative $2,000 in the bank account.
Did you guys hear this? Negative $2,000. And I see a nice,
You see a nice car
a
outside.
nice car outside.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
But you earn it because you work very hard.
I did.
And you still work very hard.
I still work very hard. My days sometimes can be 16, 18-hour days.
Right. So how many hours do you sleep a day?
I sleep a good 6 hours now.
6 hours?
Yeah, good. I have great sleep.
You beat me.
You know what? Some people say that, entrepreneurs, we have to get up at 4 a.m. It's like, yeah, which is fine. But I will say this. Arianna Huffington said that she slept all the way through the top, meaning sleep is really important.
True.
And even in the midst of building what I'm building right now, which has a global impact, there's still very much that time for getting that rest so that my brain can replenish and I can have clear activity the next day.
So I guess it's like being a doctor, lawyer, they get certain amount of hours of sleep because they're in the hospital, they have to work for 48 hours. Think about that. And yet we're entrepreneurs, and that's what happens to entrepreneurs. Don't think that because you have your own business, you get to have fun and be at the beach all day.
Oh, no.
No, you have to work a lot.
You work
more.
Many times
Many
more.
times.
Many times
very
more.
little.
Yeah.
But we're successful.
Yeah.
And you're successful.
Yeah. Thankfully, I am.
Yeah.
So some of the things that when people go into entrepreneurship, like in the case of, the programs that you're talking about where women can come into the industry, the HVAC industry, right? Like we can open ourselves into opportunities to be in fields that have previously belonged to men.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
But we now have the same opportunities. We can make the same amount of money or more because it isn't a matter of the gender as much as the desire that you have to be set apart. Correct. What it is important to know as an entrepreneur, whenever you're working for someone else, is to know that what got you here won't get you there. So it is necessary to continue to improve. I know a person right now, a current client, who he got to $2 million. Immigrant man, incredible what this person has been able to accomplish. But he got to $2 million and he's been at $2 million for 8 years. And I said,
it's not having it today, not tomorrow. It's being constant.
It's being constant. However, he knows he could have gone to 5.
But he stayed at 2 because it's constant.
Because he's constant, but frustrated at this point because you can't stay in one place for too long because growth is important, right? So he got there, but then as human beings, there's a plateau because there isn't that continued growth. Because we have to know, okay, first it was taking the risk from working for someone else maybe to then working for yourself, whatever that challenge is. Yeah. But then it's, okay, now that I work for myself, it's getting to that point that, well, now then I need to hire a team. So everything that you learn to do on your own, you unlearn to do so that you can begin delegating.
Correct. You need to start to delegate.
And start scaling.
Once you break that, you want to be, because what happens is entrepreneurs, they put a lot into it, a lot of time, a lot of effort into their business. So it becomes their identity. It becomes them.
Yeah.
And we have to stop and say, hey, now it's time to delegate.
Absolutely.
And once that moment happens and once that moment occurs, your business will start to take off.
Yep.
And this is where you need Shirley to come in and lead you in the right direction to get you to that next level.
What I do is I absolutely help you find those resources inside of yourself, and what's very unique about the work that I do is that I work a lot with the unconscious mind. We have been talking about, there's, the unconscious mind was a little taboo. Mm-hmm. Right. And people are like, still, right. The common person would be like, well, I don't know. The unconscious mind, what does it do? And so I educate people on what the unconscious mind can do. And a big part of my work incorporates that component of neuroscience so that when we create changes, we're engaging the unconscious mind to support you in accomplishing what you are trying to achieve in a shorter amount of time, with a lot less resistance than you normally would. And what I use is a concept called methodology created by Grinder called New Code NLP, which is much faster. And really, there's less than 5,000 people all over the world that use it.
So basically, what do? You put people to sleep and you do this and you go into their unconscious mind.
You mean like this?
Like, what do you do? Show me.
What I do, show you. No, I actually don't do any of that. No,
okay,
I actually don't do any of that.
So,
yeah.
So
what I do, you would never know.
No, because I'm unconscious.
No, you're not. No, unconscious mind meaning So we have a conscious mind, which is the one that right now is currently aware that you're listening to me, that you're listening to Ernie. Right now, like if I make you aware that we're talking, your conscious mind is the one that's aware that we're talking. But in the meantime, your heart is running, right? Your heart is beating. Mm-hmm. Your lungs are breathing.
Going 1,000 miles per hour because you're here next to me.
Because he's nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
I have this effect on people.
Yeah.
So what happens is behind the scenes, your unconscious mind is operating. It's figuring out what questions to ask, how to make sure it coordinates this whole thing without you even noticing, right? So the unconscious mind is processing 93% of the things that are behind the scenes.
Explain to me, how do you get into the unconscious mind? I thought that's what I was trying to ask. You put me to sleep or no? So how does that work?
So in the process that I use, it's a very simple approach in where we do balancing. Okay. So for instance, right now, if we were standing, I might say, all right, we're going to create some yes and no signals and say unconscious mind. Like we literally start talking to your unconscious mind. Okay. You know, you would, I wouldn't, because you have your rapport with your unconscious mind. And so we'd say, you know, unconscious mind, I want to talk to you. I want to establish this communication with you. And your unconscious mind will send you some kinesthetic signals, some sort of feeling in your body, perhaps, or an image or something that you would know was clearly not something that you could have done on your own. And so once we've established that communication, we start training the unconscious mind to do certain things. We start asking questions. Not only that, but being that so much of change includes the language that we use, I've been trained to ask certain questions or to use language patterns to get to the deepest parts of the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind has been known as the subconscious mind, right? So that's how many people have known it. But really, it's what's behind the scenes operating so much of what we do. And without that, we can't, if we don't change, not change, but if we don't program that or are able to include the unconscious mind in our processes of transformation, then work takes a lot longer.
Because
results take longer. Because you're right. Because people think that we're working consciously. And this is what happens. Someone that wants to get up in the morning, they're like, oh, I just can't get up.
And if we're conscious, we're going to say, no, Shirley, I don't want to do that. Or no, Shirley, I'm not going to listen to you.
Or they say, I want to get up early, but they never do.
They never do.
Because
you're contradicting your own self. You're playing with your head.
Right. This person's split. There's like patterns. One part of me wants to do, you know, so we engage both of them to operate together to move towards that highest intention that you have.
Your goals. All right. So tell me a little bit about the New Code Experience. This is the business, right? That you own.
Correct.
That you currently have.
Yeah.
Right? And to go there, it's what your website is what www.newcodeexperience.com.
Correct. Newcodeexperience.com.
Tell me a little bit about that in a few words.
Yeah. So basically, New Code Experience exists to be able to certify leaders, agents of change. So whether this is business owners, this is coaches, this is anyone that's in therapy, educators, to be able to have the most advanced skills of human evolution and transformation technology on our planet. Okay. Why? Because we need to be able to master what's inside here. Yes. If we cannot master what's inside here, then we're always going to have limitations as to what we think we can do.
And we're not going to feel sure about ourselves. We're not going to be confident.
Yeah.
We're not going to understand. We're not going to comprehend. We're not going to be open to learn.
Exactly. To expanding and to seeing the possibilities.
Correct.
Because whenever someone comes to me and they say, well, you know, I don't know if to do this or this, but they don't realize that there's like a whole other 10, 15, 20, endless amounts of possibilities of other things that they can do, except that they haven't figured out or trained their brain to be able to identify all the other possibilities. Like that typical person who says, but you don't understand my situation. You know, I don't have enough money. I haven't been able to hire a team or whatever it is. You know, my employees need me and that's why I can't take off from work. All of that is just a limitation of the brain.
An excuse.
It's a valid reason for them, you know, but it is a limitation where they have not been able to see other options. So my work through New Code Experience is to be able to give these leaders these skills through a 16-week online process and beautiful 9 days in Portugal. Anyone that wants to leave COVID, finally, when borders open and wants to fly to Portugal with us end of September, they're welcome to.
We have a training there going on?
Yeah, so we part of our process includes these 16 weeks online that we train with these skills, and then we finish it off with 9 days in Portugal in a beautiful town of Portugal called Sesimbra. Why? Because we wanted to give people that immersion experience so they can really transform themselves and once and for all be able to master the rest of their lives because they learn to manage their mindset.
Right. And who's your typical customer? What kind of customer we're looking for to use your services?
For the services, particularly, you know, if it's a coach that wants to get certified and they want to use these skills with other clients.
Certify the coaches.
I certify the coaches. Correct. Right, we certify the coaches.
So she doesn't only work with the business owners. She trains the coaches.
I train the coaches that work with the
business. This is the real deal here. Okay, we brought Shirley Solis, the real deal. All right, let me know.
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
super cool. So, well, because
You train coaches.
right, I certify the coaches with these technologies.
Okay.
And obviously on my own, in terms of like Shirley, I'm able to obviously, get whoever clients that come to me and they say, well, we need executive coaching or I need business consulting. Well, I help them on a personal level, right? As Shirley. But the company, New Code Experience, exists to create these leaders, these coaches, these agents of change. I mean, even people in government, right? Because we need to be able to know how to communicate and how to communicate in a way that others are going to understand us, but at an unconscious level, meaning like building rapport at an unconscious level, being able to communicate using the right language, being able to create transformation for ourselves so that when the demands of life are picking up, we know exactly how to manage. And these are skills.
This is coaching that not only you go into this program, but this is a program that has to be continuous.
No, that's it. Once they come through this program, I mean, they can continue on, of course, right? Like continuing growth, right? We have different levels of that. But really, like, let's say in the case of a business owner who says, you know what, I really just want to master who I am. I really want to be able to get skills that are going to expand my possibilities, right? So that I won't feel limitations around my relationships, that I won't feel limitations around who I can date or can't date or my marriage.
You feel secure about yourself.
You'll feel confident.
You'll
Absolutely.
be able to wheel and deal with anyone, any situation.
And here's a key too. It's congruence. The key here is congruence. I mean, all of you have been able to observe the way that I speak is like what you see is what you get, and we can, as human beings, one of the key things is to be able to be congruent with who we are, congruent with what we believe and what we execute. So a big part of this program is around creating congruence in who we are, because when we are congruent as human beings, we move a lot faster.
Right. So if your things are here and there, we need to align them.
We need to align them.
And put them all in perspective.
Ernie!
See?
Right here, my next guy right here.
Right here. So, all right. Who's your give me a name, an example of a company that perhaps could be your client, you would love to have as a client, that you could help them grow, or that you could work with them. Who
let me tell you. Yes. Okay, so since you're watching, all right, I would love to work with staff at FIU. I would love to work with Miami-Dade County officials, with the educational departments. Absolutely. Like, the Department of Education and Miami-Dade County Public Schools, because all teachers, I mean, this combination that I have here with the work that I've done around parenting, homeschooling, and the work that I'm doing right now with these kinds of trainings that are very inductive in nature, where we're able to communicate at a whole other level. I mean, this is radical stuff. I am one of 4 people in the United States trained to certify and to work with this,
Shirley Solis, please give us your phone number. Right there. Give us your phone number. Where can we reach
you? So I like technology. So yes. I have this vanity number. It's called, it's 909 New Code. You know how like your phone has...
No, she's like James Bond here. 909-New Code. That's how you reach her.
Yeah.
And
it's a WhatsApp number. Do you send me a message, it'll reach.
Remember, she's worldwide.
It's true.
Yes, you're like...
So it's beautiful.
So
it's
Instagram,
beautiful.
I could reach you at the Shirley Solis.
Yes.
Correct.
The Shirley Solis.
And your website again?
At newcodeexperience.com. But you can find me pretty much just anywhere if you just Google Shirley Solis. Of course, you can call Ernie. Yeah, LinkedIn. I'd love to be able to be of support. If there's any challenges, just be a friend. I just want to add value to whatever you need. Even if you don't work with me, my main purpose is to add value and to change that moment of conversation, to make sure that when we're done with that conversation, you are smiling, you're a much better person, and you feel more confident about what you can do.
Perfect. And I want to speak about one last thing before we go. And that's about Cutler Bay Business Association, CBBA, which you've been a member.
Yes.
You've been a supportive member of
Absolutely.
Cutler Bay
Love
Business
it.
Association.
Yeah.
She supports local business owners. And of course, I'm the president of Cutler Bay Business Association. And I want to thank and put a shout out to all my board of directors. Thank you for your support.
Yes.
And but we have an upcoming event with actually Shirley Solis. So if you want to see her in person, all right, you can come see her May 13th, right? 2021, next week, Thursday. It's going to be at the Pinecrest Restaurant, located on 216 and South Dixie Highway.
Right.
Go to cutlerbaybiz.com, and there you could register on their Eventbrite and get your tickets, because seating is limited for only 40 guests.
Okay.
And Shirley, you know what? You've made me sweat today. In your intro, I've never gotten nervous, but you made me nervous. for some reason, and it's because you are an incredible person.
Thank you.
You are a friend. You're an entrepreneur. You're a great mom, great family person with great values. And anything else you want to put a shout out again out there to your friends, family? Say something special before we go.
I just want to say again, that bio is simply the amount of things that I've done. But I think what matters most in humanity is that we care for people, that we're very honoring, that we're congruent with who we are, that we're doing things to add value to others. And I think that when we lead with that way, with excellence, with congruence, with integrity, life just opens up for us. You know, life is an endless amount of possibilities.
Remember, it was $2,000 negative in the bank.
Yes.
And now she's banking.
I'm banking now.
She's banking.
All over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah. And it's great.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank
it's my
you,
pleasure having you on my show. I want to invite you back. And please don't miss out seeing Shirley Solis in person.
Oh, yeah. You buy your ticket, because I'm telling you, I've got fire that is just like coming through my skin, and I will light it up.
You're going to show how to have a 3-minute elevator speech. You're going to teach us some coaching, some experience coaching.
Yeah, we're going to go hands in. I mean, anything could happen when I do a live event, right? And so you come ready. Like, if you're like, I need to be there, you just buy your ticket, show up, and we're going to talk about how you can be more confident. We're going to talk about public speaking. We're going to talk about anything that comes up that we can drill in at that moment, right? Because we want to talk about public speaking and how to improve your confidence.
Yeah.
But when you're there, whatever you're coming in to look for, you'll walk out with, I promise.
Great. Yeah, I know you always put a great show. And thank you again for this great show. I want to thank once again, the Miami Community Newspaper and CBBA for this opportunity. The industry show, support our industry.
Yes.
My name is Ernie Gomez, and I could be reached at 305-879-2994. Thank you, and you have a great day.
Thank you.
And share this news.
Absolutely.